everybody, my name is Strasbourg and welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me. If it's your first time here, hello, very special welcome. I want you to transport your mind back to the year 1971. Now, I actually was not alive back then, surprisingly. Or maybe not so surprisingly. 1971, the swinging 60s has just ended, and the world is going into a brand new decade. And in the year 1971, Fender, recently under its new ownership from CBS, unveiled 3 new guitars. These new guitars were the Telecaster Deluxe, the Telecaster Thin Line, and the Telecaster Custom. Now, what did all three of these guitars have in common? One, apart from all being Telecasters, is that they all featured Fender's new Wide Range Humbucking pickup. Now, these guitars with this pickup in it were only on the market from 1971 to 1979, and then they were discontinued. And then those vintage spec Wide Range Humbuckers that Fender made were never made in the line again. Not until the good year of our Lord, 2020. So what happened? What the hell is so special about these Wide Range Humbuckers? Why were they only made for the kind of 6-7 years that they were? Well, let's go back in time. Let's find out. So in 1967, a man by the name of Seth Lover leaves Gibson Guitars to go and join Fender. Who is Seth Lover? I'm sure many of you know, but he is the man who invented the PAF, or patent applied for, pickup, better known as the humbucker. He developed that for Gibson because they wanted a humbucking pickup. Everyone knows the story. I'm not going to go into it here. Anyway, he gets a call in 1967 from someone over at Fender offering him a job to come work in California. He was making $9,000 a year at Gibson. They offered him $12,000 a year. Inflation's a bitch. So he accepts the job and he goes to work at Fender fresh under their new ownership. And they task him, Seth Lington, with creating a humbucking pickup for Fender. Because up until that point, Fender had only ever done single coil pickups. And while their guitars and that sound were extremely popular during the 50s and kind of the early 60s, the sound at that time from the late 60s onwards was much more of that Gibson humbucking hard rock sound, was much more in favour. So Fender wanted to capitalise on that, and they wanted their own, humbucker pickup. So they tasked Seth with creating a humbucker. Now this is where the story gets a little bit muddled up, because the what you always heard, and this is always what I heard as well, is that Seth was told to create a humbucker that was a humbucker, but with still some of that Fender chimey flair. But according to him, the people at Fender just wanted a direct copy, and it was his idea to kind of add some of that Fender flair back in. And he couldn't just copy the PAF, because he would be infringing on his own patent, however you want to say it, that he took out back in the day in the 50s while working at Gibson. So what actually is a wide range humbucker? Well, a wide range humbucker, it's a humbucking pickup, but it's different in its design. Whereas a traditional kind of PAF Gibson style humbucker has a bar magnet going through the middle and then 6 slugs and 6 screws, the wide range humbucker doesn't have a magnet, and the actual screws or the slugs, whatever you want to call them, are the actual magnets themselves. Now, to be able to machine these magnetic slugs into, to be able to machine them into screws, they couldn't use the typical materials that were being used at the time, like Alnico or something. They had to use something that was more machinable. So they used an alloy called Q-knife? Q-knife? However you want to say it. And Q-knife or Q-knife, whatever you want to say it, is a mixture of copper, nickel, and iron. And this basically allowed them to be able to machine these slugs, or screws I should say, and make them magnetized. But an interesting side effect of using Q-knife is that the magnets aren't actually very strong. So the pickups needed to be overwound to make them stronger. And they were actually quite a trebly sound. So Seth would overwind about 10,000 winds the pickup to make them stronger, less trebly, and add more to the bass response. But of course, this made the actual physical size of the pickup bigger, which meant that they needed to be put into a bigger housing, which is what you see. There's also a steel plate that sits underneath the pickups within the housing. If you want to think of it, it's kind of like 2 strap pickups put kind of stuck together within the same casing, but one is reverse round and they're kind of pointed in opposite directions. And then they also have this steel plate that sits underneath them and kind of pushes the magnetic field a bit further up. Also, I'm told, I don't make pickups. I don't understand much about magnets apart from north and south and all that simple shit. But this is what I've found in my very, very extensive research. Anyway, 1971 comes around. Fender unveils the new models. They also do the Starcaster in 76, I think. Starcaster is a cool guitar, but not well lived. Also, a big part about these pickups is that the guitars at the time used 1 meg pots instead of the 500k or the 250k pots, which gave them even more of that kind of brilliance and that bright sparkle sound. Anyway, so these guitars were in production from 71 to 78, 79, whatever, and then they get discontinued. And there's various reasons why. I mean, the big one, at least as far as the pickups are concerned, is that Cuneife or Cuneife became basically like hard to come by. It was used by the automotive industry at the time in speedometers and stuff like that. But by the time the late 70s came around, they were all switching to more computerized and digital systems. So the resources dried up. There was no more Cuneife to use, so they discontinued it. I think don't know if they discontinued the models. I think they may have discontinued the models as well. And this also could have been down to like Fender was kind of going into a period of really struggling at the time. They weren't as popular. People didn't like the 70s stuff, even though I have a real soft spot for 70s Fender models, like the big headstocks and obviously the Tele Deluxe, which is I'll get to in a moment, but also like 70s Strats and stuff. I had a 70s Greco Strat copy that was really good at one point. But anyway, so they get discontinued. A few years later in the 80s, Fender Japan starts making a Tele Deluxe or Custom, I can't remember, version, which also has wide range humbuckers in it, but they're not real wide range humbuckers. They're basically just Alnico style PAFs, but with the bigger covering on them and some space to fill them out. And then in 98, Fender Mexico starts making more wide range humbuckers to go in their various models, but once again, these are not vintage spec. They're PAFs underneath, and the ones that are made in Mexico are still the ones that you will see today if you buy most Squier or Fender, unless it's advertised. Most Squier or Fender guitars with wide range pickups in it will be those ones from Mexico, which are not the vintage spec ones. Anyway, so this brings us to 2020 when the Fender Custom Shop starts reissuing the Cuneife pickups. Then they start making them again. They're fucking not cheap, but obviously they found a supply of Cuneife somewhere, and that explains why the price is probably a bit higher. But if you want it, they're still cheaper than buying any of the actual vintage models, because those are not cheap either. But the world has got the wide range humbuckers back. So I guess what I wanted to talk about really, apart from the history, is why are they not more popular? Because to me, at least maybe this is just a personal thing, but I want a pickup that is perfectly in the middle of humbuckers and single coils. I love single coils like Telecasters and Jazzmasters, but I also love humbuckers for, the big riff reasons, but then I love the clarity and the bite and the pick attack you get from single coils. And I'm always on the hunt for finding a perfect in between. And some people say it's the P90, some people might say it's like the Filtertron or a specific model of humbucker that some boutique company makes. But I really think it's the wide range humbuckers. I think if you get proper, vintage style ones and you use 1 meg pots, I think they are the way to go. I think that is the ultimate in between. So let's take a look at the ones I've been using today. All right, so hopefully this is in shot. I'll get some B-roll footage if it's not. This is it's a bit dusty. Sorry about that. I played this at a few gigs recently. This is a Squier Telecaster Deluxe. This is actually one I got when I was 15 years old, 10 years ago, 25 years old, even though I look 35. I got this in high school as my second ever guitar. Played it until maybe 2017, and then it kind of got relegated to the back of a cupboard. I moved out not too long ago, a while ago, but then my parents were going through my old room at home, and they were like, hey, what do you want to do with this guitar? And I was like, oh, I'll bring it back to life. I'll throw some fresh pickups in there, fresh everything, bring it back to life. It did have tone written on the back there, but it's come off recently. And I don't normally stick on my guitars, but I figure I'm never going to sell this thing because it's not worth anything to anyone but me. So, Electronic Audio Experiments, my favourite pedal company, and Pedal Empire, my favourite pedal shop. Got to rep the brand. Shout out to both of them. Anyway, pickups. So these are wide range humbuckers, Cuneife and all, vintage spec, correct, from a Melbourne pickup builder. I'm not sure if there's multiple people involved. It could just be one person, called Madlove Pickups and Pedals. Madlove Pickups, at least. Just look look for that and you'll find them. And according to their website, they may be one of the only people outside of the Fender Custom Shop making wide range humbuckers with cuneiform in them. And these sound fucking amazing. This is kind of as far, like, they're not going to be perfect for every single situation, like, but for most of what I'm doing in my band, and a lot of the stuff I like, they've got that clarity and that chime that comes from Fender pickups, like single coils, but also the fullness and the thickness of humbuckers. And I didn't just go with the pickups, I did the full Monty, as they say. I got new pots, 1 meg pots, new switch, new jack. I just gutted the whole thing. But yeah, I truly think that these pickups are the most perfect, are the perfect in between humbuckers and single coils. But no one very rarely uses them, not as much as some other styles of pickups. And that is because of the models that they can fit in. They can only really fit in your deluxes, your customs, your thin lines, and your Starcasters. They don't really, because of how big they are, they don't really go in anything else. And I don't think any of these models are particularly the most popular in Fender's catalogue, even though they're my personal favourite. And I just think that's why they're not as popular, to be honest, which is a shame. But speaking of Madlove Pickups, they do offer a wide range humbucker in a standard humbucker format size. So if you've been wanting to try this sound out, but you don't have, a Tele Deluxe or something, hit up their website. They're also considerably cheaper pickups than going with the Fender Custom Shop ones. I got the pickups and the whole wiring harness and everything for cheaper than buying the two pickups from Fender. I think underrated pickups, I'm hoping they're making a bit of a comeback. I mean, there have been noticeable people from history who've used them. Obviously, what's his name? Lee Ronaldo, Graham Coxon from Blur. There's been people who have used them, but I'm hoping they'll make a bit more of a big comeback now that the vintage spec ones are readily available. And there are other companies who do cool copies, like I think Curtis Novak does a cool version of it, and Lola. I don't know if any of them have Cunif in them, but they seem to be quite popular. But yeah, that's probably all I've got to say about that today. I think I've rambled on plenty enough. Go check out Madlove Pickups for all your wide range humbucker needs. They make them in your humbucker route size. They also make them in Jazzmaster size pickup mounts, and they make other pickups as well. I think I'm gonna go to them and get my some new pickups for my Jazzmaster, potentially try that out. But yeah, go check out Madlove Pickups. Subscribe, comment down below. Tell me if you like wide range humbuckers, if you play any vintage spec ones. Who's your favourite guitarist that plays wide range humbuckers? Tell me I talk too much. Tell me I suck. I'm sorry. My nose is starting to run. I'm still sick. I'll see you in the next video. Fuck off.